So I think what would come after all of it would be my subsection campaigns, which I think I would briefly describe. There's a few of them. So, um, there's the Ash Isles. I developed in short, it would be the southern kind of stretch area underneath the whole broken apart continent. Um, I think my idea behind it was to have kind of several factors put in. So, um, there was a base of basically, I think they're on their last legs to defend against whatever other elements. I wasn't quite sure what was attacking them. I was figuring maybe it could be a bit the abyss stuff, or I don't know, or maybe it could be a whole like. I think I might have wanted to push it more towards the orcs and to develop their hierarchy and system and to have the lesser like renditions of orc like hobgoblin, goblin, and then there's their subsection stuff like pale, um, green skin, the redskins, and then I think I was gonna kind of do it with that, and then I set up sort of an elemental block a little bit in there where there's a leader faction, kind of control like I don't know, it's like a lord of fire, lord of ice, water, all the elements. Um, and they kind of have their own islands or isles. And then it was going to be more of like a sailing kind of expedition campaign in a way. But narratively, it was more set to pick up the old world before it kind of shattered. Because it was a continent kind of held together all in one piece. There was a kingdom on the western side, which is, I think I named it Galvatrax, something like that. And then the top, which was Arianda, I'm not sure. Then the bottom was like Otoshima or something, and then the right side was like Yggdrasil or Yggdish something. I wasn't sure. But it was an elf kingdom. Elf kingdom on the right, sort of a mixed bag in the south. The left were more of like the industrial kind of warrior warlord kind of shit, and then the northern was kind of the like peasantry kind of crap, workers, the agricultural side. Um, that was kind of like what controlled those zones. I mean, there was obvious other creatures within them, but that was sort of the case. And what I developed when I was making these isles, when I was thinking of, along with all these other subsection campaigns that I have that nobody played yet. And so this would be in the current age, which is the third or whatever, and so this would be the broken up isles in the south. So it would have entailed a section of the western side as well as the southern side. So it was going to be a mixed bag of war torn western side and a like mystic area with the orcs as well to kind of with the shamanism because I kind of wanted to give a more of I don't know in-depth look into what they were going to do. Uh, I think they might know magics, but I wasn't too sure. I haven't really gotten too heavily involved in it yet because players never really make it that far because orcs are strong. Um, So yeah, I mean, aside from the elements, there was a southeastern isle that was, I think I called it a Raven Isle. I think that had to do with like warlocks. Just for my own curiosity and how to play around with that. I was gonna think of it more of a stronger warlock kind of area, or dark wizard in a way, but they were more of a neutral faction. They kept to themselves in a way, defended their own shit. Uh, and then it was the same with the northwestern isle, which I think they were more focused on war and hunting kind of stuff. I think they were going to be kind of similar to like Vikings in a way, except they have more of a medieval plate armor on them. You know, they'd be tall, strong kind of stuff. Fishing and hunting, mostly. And what other isle? I think there was gonna be a dragon, like not full blown dragon. I think it was a wyvern or something like that. Drakes. It's gonna be like smaller, maybe dinosaur kind of island in the north. It was gonna be a bigger island. And I think it's sort of, yeah, that's pretty much what it was, just to encapsulate sort of all my ideas into one, and I put it all on one island. I don't think I had an end game goal to it, but it was sort of leaning back towards the past in the way. Where I might have put in some stuff, but I haven't really fully discovered that at all. And then, oh man, what's this? I think next one would be a mix. I called it Accursed Land. And Forgotten Kingdom. Nope. Yes. This was going to encapsulate the world in the that dead waste zone in that Light's Hope. Before that went to shit. And then I was gonna kind of make it where, like, you know, because since it was all one continent, that I was gonna make that forest up in what was it called again? It was when I first talked about the relic thing, and then there was a forest there. It's supposed to have some sort of purposeful meaning, but the forest is supposed to stretch on for a long, like, pretty much big chunk of the land. Yeah, and then there had to do with dryads and all that crap. I don't think I really just put too much into it. Just maybe developed a few characters with not really so much story. Oh, maybe it was Seliph story? Seliph? Seraph? Either way, I think the forest was named after the guy. So, yeah, it was going to be the story of that. Seraphor? Seliph story? I can't think of it. Either way, that was kind of... I mean, either way, I don't have a set name for this stuff, really. It's just kind of names I throw out on a board, and hopefully it sticks. Sometimes it don't, and I'm just like, I'd rather rename it. Yeah, so that Forgotten Kingdom. So, with the Light's Hope stuff, which was kind of what it was going to lead up to, but this would be the past, it was a lich of sorts. That's what was causing all the undead to happen in Light's Hope. It was the king, and he got a power gem of some sort, corrupted him, yada yada. Then he got sealed and locked away, and came back, which powered all the undead that were already around in that place. And so lost my train of thought. Yeah, so I think that was gonna describe the fall of it all. I didn't get too far into it, but that's what that was about. And the accursed land one was basically, um, kind of. I think it was before it became like a giant kingdom. Like it was the predecessor because it. So when I first put this on the map, there was a lot of broken up kingdom sections, and they held like together maybe I don't know 5 to 6 villages or something underneath their rule. And so that's kind of what a cursed land was gonna be, and that's kind of where I developed also these things called Giathrum. I don't know how I pronounce it. Giathrum. Giathrum. They were supposed to be more of a neutral, chaotic. There's not supposed to be an evil version of goblin, but more of a friendly. It was sort of a mix between gnome, goblin. Maybe it's like a gnome fae. A greenskin gnome fame. Fae? Maybe. Uh, but there were going to be mercantile kind of stuff. That's kind of where I developed those. And then, yeah, that's kind of the kingdom, and you were supposed to explore it, help your kingdom out, help other things, and then pull together kind of that stuff, get people to work together, and then it all sort of collapses in on itself when the dude ends up with the power gem and puts in his staff, becomes the king of everything in that area, and expands his reach. But over time, it corrupted him because who he got this gem from was working alternatively for. I think I mentioned it in the Arctic Deathlands. I think I called it Nazmagul. Nazmagul's underling, which was a powerful lich, gave him that gem, which corrupted him and eventually kind of did the thing like how if you ever played Diablo, where that uh Tristram Fallen kind of thing, that dude going, the people that gets corrupted by that shit kind of stuff. Uh yeah, so then he took over. Then Forgotten Kingdom would be the next step after that accursed land. Um, that would have been kind of it for those. I believe in the Forgotten Kingdom, I was trying to develop a like sky ship or sky castle. Never got to finish the idea of it though. Then we have, I think, kind of 3 cut across things, which would have been the Aurelian Empire, which would have shown the political struggle. I think I might have recorded and uploaded some of that, which I think I only had my players go two or 3 times. It was going to encapsulate the corruption of the politics and how they were kind of going across the land with their military, and they all owned their separate military because they're sort of politicians, but they own like the pockets of some of these generals, and they would use those generals and their army because they'd march them up and down all across the empire, and yeah, so they would conscript that, and then they'd also use the cultists and persuade them that they're evil people who are possessed over there, and then they send them on that way, and they go crazy. Um, yeah, it was supposed to encap because Light's Hope was the uh, eastern early empire, then the western, which I never really. It's in that campaign that I showed. It had mercenaries, and they went into this cave, came out with training, then they got attacked by yada yada. They fled, tried to break through, got attacked at some ruins and barely held the line. Uh, but yeah, that would have. So there's that, and then I tried to figure out something with the elves in the northwestern side of that Light's Hope. And I think it was gonna be more of they're so lazy and laid back, kind of the elves, because there was gonna be like the highborn, they're aristocratic and smug and arrogant, and then the wood elves, which are more grounded, but they're more in nature, so they're kind of hermits in a way, so they keep to themselves. And then they kind of love their music and dance stuff, so I was figuring it was gonna kind of be like a breakdown of society for them, because I was gonna bring up the cultist who worships the abyss, and they're gonna go in and kind of fuck everything up with their sort of strangeness, because they use. I developed this thing called a blood ooze. I don't really remember how it works, but it sort of when a big ooze, because they kind of die and they create an ooze from their dead corpses, and if two oozes are together, they form into a bigger one. It gets worse and worse if more of them are close together. And then when the ooze dies, it blows up and does damage in a radius, depending on how big it gets. Um, yeah, that's kind of what that one was going to be about. I didn't really get too far into it. So Aurelian, Mistress, and what was the third one? Oh, man. Ooh. Oh, the Solemn Sanctums, which I was gonna kind of do south because the religious, not the cultists, but the overzealous religious people who, when you point at somebody, say possessed, that like the Solemn Witch Trial, they start hanging, burning people. Um, I think they would. I figured they were going to be more encapsulated with old ancient relics in service of their god, either to destroy them as blasphemous or to find old relics that associated with their god. Which, I mean, I was just gonna throw in like they praise the sun because I Dark Souls and everything. So I just thought kind of a fun little Easter egg or whatever the hell you want to call it. And so that one was going to pretty much be they conscripted mercenaries because they kind of their militants aren't exactly too well military trained, or no, what the fuck was it? They're not as skilled. So they had to hire people to go in and find this stuff for them, and they paid a lot of money because they were kind of a religious sect, so they got a lot of donations and whatever they pretty much killed and burned away from other people. They took as plunder, confiscated it for, yeah. Uh, so they would be hired mercenaries. They'd go into these sort of big dungeons, like ancient, old, from the first age. So it would be like old human kingdom stuff, elven kingdom stuff, dwarf kingdom stuff, orc, lizard folk, dragonborn, all sorts of different kind of stuff to give an aesthetic towards like different uh construction types, different puzzle types, and how they kind of worked is the idea. I didn't develop anything yet, and then it was gonna be like a choose your path situation. So if you went this way, because it was gonna be a like set piece dungeon thing, and then there was gonna be a sort of want to say teleportation device in it. Because I was thinking that they were kind of a little more sophisticated back in the first stage, a little more developed with their uh, magics and stuff. Like they seem smarter than what they are now. So it was gonna be more of like how if you played World of Warcraft, you get mages that have these teleports to like different towns and stuff. It was gonna be kind of like that, but with like a some sort of pedestal system. You touch it, boom, you poof into another city. So that was gonna kind of link it all together, and it was gonna be a certain path that each one of these, because other ones like all these cities would kind of be interconnected between all these other cities, but some of them would be destroyed, collapsed, so they wouldn't reconnect with other ones. But they would just go a certain way until you would reach a certain point at the end game boss fight, woohoo, and then unlocks a certain giant story narrative, which I still have yet to figure out. Um, some stuff, I think it was gonna involve assistance. Like one would have had the elves actually come help, and another one would be like the orcs and whatever between races. Just for like the mercenaries to basically give a portion of like their experience and loot towards for help. If they contracted them, of course. Plus, it would also give them the reputation, so then when the last fight does happen, that they have the assistance from that one to help them. And then that would have been it for that. A lot of other characters I kind of put in it were more directly linked to like things I've watched or games I've played. And it's like this character represents that character, that, but I would name them differently. Nobody really of note. Then that one. No price of loyalty they're still doing. Maybe I should break that up. Put that in a different. Well, I guess I got some more time, so I'll describe this one. So, price of loyalty. I had no set area for it. I'll be honest. I think it had to do more so with setting up the story for the first town that I did the D&D with this Vanguard, which it was set up by a duo to create an order which I had set up there, which they trained like knights or whatever the hell it was. And one was gonna be like a lord, and the other one was just gonna be a strong paladin or something. It would have been set towards the end of the second, I think, second age. And I think I was gonna put more like big names in, like the guy who I don't know developed this one crazy sword I made, which allows you to crit on a 15 or higher. Other ones too that developed like certain ground stuff, like the guild, the merchants guild, that kind of crap. Yeah, I don't know where exactly I put it though. I don't fucking know. I don't know, man. I guess I didn't have an idea of where I was gonna set it in the world. So, I mean, there's a few places I would want to put it. Like, there's Varillian Empire, which I briefly kind of glossed over in whichever one that I uploaded two ago or last one. And then there's the free March place in the southwestern area of the Barthomia area too. There's that. Yeah, there's a few places I could put it. Never decided though. Uh, but yeah, I guess I set up more of a Blue Dragon's backstory in that one too, which would have also entailed certain stuff where I had names developed, like a Raban River or Tiri River or something, named after a guy that stopped the orcs or whatever way back in the day. Blue Dragon involved, cursing or doing whatever magical thing to fuck people over, because Blue Dragon likes tormenting people, kind of thing. Anything else? I don't think that there was, because I think that was the grand arcing thing of it. Aside from maybe the giant betrayal that was going to happen at the end of it. Which I think was going to kill the guy that developed that crazy weapon. Roll a 15 or higher and you crit. Because he developed that weapon. And he was also really strong. So, yeah. And I think it had to do something more with, like, getting 3 different types of people into power. You could choose the, like, militia, the farmers, the refugees and stuff, and then putting somebody who speaks for them in charge, or you put the soldiers above everybody and get the military and order put into it, or you go with the religious side, and then yeah, and then it was gonna be once you chose that, then the other two would betray you, and I think one of them. Like if you chose the military, then it'd be the religious to do the backstabbing. Or I mean, I don't know. I was gonna play with it to be like, oh, would it feel more gripping to have the refugees just turn on? Or, yeah, yeah. I think yeah. I briefly went back to the life or death and kind of tinkered around with. No, I think I already told that one. With the Lord, uh, his daughter leaving, and it was the story of him dying and trying to protect it all from falling at Gretchen. Yeah, I think I said that. Yeah, nothing else, I don't think, in those campaigns. Because the next one is going to be longer. That one's going to be very long to describe. I did not go back to that Shadowlands one. And we did not go back to that swamp. So I think I just have. Well, that's a one of part 2. There's 2 parts to that one. And then I guess I briefly described that one after that. And so there's just that one. that one. So that's two. I think I just have two left to describe, and then it's the one of two parts that I have to do. Ah! I guess I made a subsection campaign for that split where you in the first campaign where they decided to go out in the frozen area, they could have taken the boat and chartered down to fight the undead. I actually made a campaign specifically for the book I wrote back in high school. So it had that like that in it from the book. Um with all the stuff that was happening from that guy's perspective going to the woods and up there, and then ends up meeting with the knights that kind of carved a path up, and then I think that they might have survived that demonic shit because the demon was going to really fuck with their minds and then reveal some things that kind of pressed them to go up there, and then they find the guy, and then I think the idea with it, which I juggled with, was to for those whatever survived that room onslaught of death and just decay, they were going to abandon it and leave. And I I think I may have done something with the ley line stuff because then that would have brought. But I don't want to reveal this guy yet. I mean, I talked about him previously, but he's got a bigger story. So they'll go to a ley line, which I said that towers were erected in each of these ley lines to kind of adrift the portal that links the worlds together to push them all out. So like stop the abyss from coming in. Like they're all kind of clawing, scraping, and cutting, fighting off the abyss because they're all so damn weakened from fighting each other. So yeah, the so essentially the power that is, or whatever power is in these towers that connect to these ley lines, are collapsing or breaking, and the relic, which I kind of put one and two together, that had that that guy was trapped in, the prince that killed everybody in the Arctic Deathlands. He was trapped inside that relic. I think it gonna bring that to one of those ley lines. And then I think that there was gonna be a pinnacle of something happening where the ley line I think would have broke, but the power of the relic I think would have ended up breaking or something because something got siphoned off from it. Because whatever this tower was needed power to kind of fix itself in a way. Because the thing was with these towers is that they needed somebody to periodically go to them, which I had linked with the old man, and he was died, so he wasn't doing that anymore. So the it wasn't getting fed anything. So it took out whatever sealing power that was on that relic, and the relic is gonna fucking go, and then he's back in the world. And then I didn't know how to really write him after that point. And I think that's what kind of where that was gonna end. Which was not a part of the book. That's just extra stuff I had. The book I wrote in high school ended at that town and it collapsing. It was gonna be like a tragic story. Like people in power holding on to their power in the fleeting moment of where action requires the calling to action is required for some people who are in charge that need to do what needs to be done, and they decide to take it more on a personal benefit side of things where I'm just going to gather all my wealth and run for it, or I'm gonna abandon these people in favor for my own survivability, and yeah, that's kind of what it's gonna be. It's gonna be a collapse of that, and that's kind of what that book was mainly about. It's aside from trying to get into the details. Yeah. And then I'm gonna say that I think that was it for all the breakaway ones. Because I did have actually there's 3. Fuck. So there's that one. It's called The Blood Moon. Then the next there I did another rendition of Light Folk. It's what came after. All that shit that went down. And then a world that exists within the abyss that's still semi holding on to life. It kind of gives us. No, I'm not gonna get into it, but that's the idea. And then I'll talk about. So I got 3 of them described in the part 1 of 2. So I will thank you all again for tuning in. Just pinging ideas out here and describing stuff in as much like not crazy amount of descriptions as I can. Just big notes. And then I would just want to kind of double check on. No, there's nothing not there. Oh, I guess that Aurelian Empire kind of put into scope a. No, that was Life or Death. But Aurelian Empire kind of had a part of that. I think I called them Silver Sentinels. They were the people sort of responsible for figuring out a way that they could find these portals that from the abyss that are coming in, and they would go there and seal them. So yeah, there was a faction that kind of went around and did that, and that dude who died at Gretchen that owned it, he had them, but that would have been like one of their failures, just like in Virillion. Except Virillion was more of a bigger scope kind of situation. Like a lot of factors kind of went into the fact that how they lost all that kingdom. Like the whole thing gets pretty much wiped out at the end of it. And yeah, it's pretty much just a cesspool of abyss creatures living in that land. And then I think they sort of just quarantined it off. Because the abyss creatures cannot go into open water at all. I don't think I wrote them to be that way. They're land creatures only. Because I didn't want to... water... Because I barely glossed over that with the Isles. That stuff gets complicated. I don't know, maybe because I wanted to. I guess I could have been done with something due to God's power. One of the god, maybe it's goddess, controls water. Man, I think that was because I wrote a dragon that was associated with the water that served under the one of the goddesses. I forgot what the name was, but I think they were like moon. The moon, I think, was involved or something. Yeah, that was another thing that I had to touch upon there with that abyss creature taking over all that. Okay, yeah, that's it. Yes. Whoa, nope. Syndicate faction I built up to in there. Nope. Yes. I guess I did. They were there. Syndicate faction, which owned the mercenaries that you could hire through the travel in Life or Death, and they're kind of around. And yeah, the Syndicate was around. They kind of own a slave operation of getting vagabonds and orphans and they essentially groom them into whatever they want, either through their sex trafficking or uh, having them pay off debt by going out and being thieves or whatever. And yeah, just a very cruel sort of operation they run. And then they own that pirates smugglers bay thing in the south of Lights Hope, and yeah, they're a very rich enterprise that are kind of involved everywhere, but they were sort of more of like the underground, in a way. But they do have their morality in line with, like obviously the undead marching in the area, so they put their funds towards, hey, let's give you money, like fund like the Blackwoods to go out to go do that, and they give them some mercenaries and troops because they essentially their sole goal is for profit. Like I guess in a sense they're sort of a corporation, really, but they do have a ruler. But they got a ruler, but that they have a council, which they all hold like a share in because they own each one of these counselors own like a subsection of the syndicate. Like this is the sex trafficker owner, this is the slave owner, this is the mercenary owner, this is the banker, whatever. All right, y'all have a wonderful night, day. See ya in the next one.